Happy New Year! And the best way to help ring that day in is with Staten Island's own annual New Year's Day beach walk. They've been doing that for 32 years, and this coming year, 2023, is number 33. As we show you some of our footage as we covered these gatherings over the years, Kathleen and I will share some of our memories and thoughts of what goes on during that journey and invite you to the next one, which will be on January 1st at about 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. 12 o'clock at the Great Kills Beach.
The parking lot is right across from Buffalo Avenue
Street.
And Highland Boulevard.
Right. And then you take that all the way down to the marina where, and right across from the marina is the Great Kills Beach Pavilion. There's a parking lot right there, and they all gather around on New Year's Day at 12 o'clock. And the speaker is Jim Scarcella.
Jim, yes, he's the president of the Natural Resources Protective Association, and he'll introduce people who are going to be other presenters there. And this only lasts maybe 20 minutes where they're saying what they're going to do for the rest of the year. And usually Cliff Hagan from Protectors of the Pine Oak Woods is there, and sometimes they have other people speaking like Tony Rose, and some other people who may speak, and then we all break up into our little groups, but stay together and start walking down the pathway to the beach.
Yep, and we walk all along the water line, and we meet up at Crooke's Point, which is a huge rock formation.
Which is about a mile away, I think. It seems like a long distance.
No, it's a short distance.
And we're doing this whether it's cold and snowing, or whether it's raining, or whether the sun is shining. And at that point, before we get to Crooke's Bridge, or Crooke's Point rather, we have to our left all the beautiful water. To our far left, we have the Verrazano Bridge. And if you really have good eyesight and you don't need glasses like a number of the young people here, as you can see New Jersey. And I forget which section of New Jersey that is. But it's a vast amount of water that we're going to look at. And that will change once we pass Crooke's Point and we head back along this peninsula that we'll call a peninsula. And at one point, this didn't exist. This was all underwater.
Ah, yeah. Oh, the fun part I like is everybody brings their snacks, little wines, little liquors, and we all share our refreshments with each other at the rocks. And even during the pandemic, where there was it was so wonderful to be outside, especially during those times, to just enjoy being with people.
And you can see everybody wearing the mask, or a lot of
Yes.
people wearing the masks. Even though we did an illegal thing there, and we all try and hide that, and that is we bring some champagne or maybe some bourbon or brandy, because it can be cold there, and we toast the New Year.
So I highly recommend people to do this. Meet up at 12 o'clock at Great Kills Beach and just have fun on the first day of the year.
And then we leave Crooke's Point and we head back to the parking lot, but it's about the same, it is the same distance, that's the midpoint you would say. But this time what we're going to see is the Great Kills Arena. All the boats that are there, and now we see, instead of straight water, we're going to see the houses on the other side of the shore, which is not very far away. And that's just beautiful, and the people are so nice there. And then we wind up in the parking lot where we're still eating and we're still drinking, and spend another half hour or so before we get in the cars and leave.
Yeah.
And what happened at last year's Crooke's Point was Jim Scarcella jumped in the water. We're not the Coney Island Polo Club or Polar Bear Club, but we have an individual who jumped in there, and that's him in the water. I mean, that was cold, and you see him shivering. Oh my goodness. Nobody else joined him. We just took pictures of him doing that.
Happy New Year, everybody! Happy New Year!
But I highly recommend people to do that on New Year's Day.
Hi, and welcome to the Environment TV report. I'm Charlie Olson, your host, along with Kathleen Harris, my co-host, to talk about Staten Island environmental communities concerns. Have you seen the Staten Island Nature and Wildlife Calendar for 2023? Better still, do you own your own personal copy? The environmental group, the Protectors of Pine Oak Woods, holds a photographic contest annually, which brings in about 200 beautiful photos for their judges to sort through in an anonymous method. We captured their calendar launch event, which can also be seen in its fullness on our YouTube channel. And Kathleen and I will show you some of that. Are you ready, Kathleen?
Sure.
All right.
So there's 12 months in a year, but they pick 3 additional photos. So the cover is a cover picture of a king eider that was in Great Kills Park by...
Well, that was done by Elizabeth Kulik. Yes, beautiful picture.
Yes. The inside first page is a bridge at Clove Lakes in Clove Lakes Park, one of my favorite bridges, and that was by...
That was by Lisa Perazzo.
Yes. And then the second inside page is the Black Pine Spring Buds in South Beach.
And that's by Adriano Nalato.
Yes.
Yes, I couldn't pronounce that when we were interviewing him either. And he's got a few more photos in here.
January's is the first snow in Bloomingdale Park. There's a beautiful photo by
Natasha Dulub. And it's just, I just want to get my snowshoes on and walk through there. And you can see there's a pathway in the background. Beautifully done, beautifully.
February is the Changing Tide in South Beach.
Again by that Adriano Cinelato. And I hope he doesn't shoot me when he hears this.
March is the Pileated Woodpecker in Blue Heron Park by
Ken Filmer. And I'd want to go back to Adriano's February shot there. That looks beautiful, because I know you had some thoughts about that.
Yes,
go ahead.
That's going to be framed. There's no question. I'm taking it out. I have two calendars, and that's going to be framed.
Yes, that is beautiful. Okay, then we can proceed there. On to April. Oh, the cuties are there.
My April is, those are the
Red Fox
Red
kits.
Fox kits.
Yeah.
By
Crystal Riley.
Yes.
How did she actually get there? So it just doesn't seem real. How do you get baby foxes to sit there for the photograph? I mean, you can't get little kids to do that.
No.
All right, you ready
May's
for May?
is ruby-throated hummingbird in the Mount Loretta unique area.
And that's by Nicholas Ferraro, a beautiful bird. They are so small. And their wings, go very, very fast, more than 60 to 100 times a second. They're incredible.
June is the red-tailed hawk in Clove Lakes Park.
By Teresa Mastoros. And the spread there makes it look like it's not a hawk, but an eagle. It's so beautiful. These people are very talented how they get this.
July is the great egret in Mount Loretta unique area.
And this is an optical illusion created by Christy Riley. This is her second picture there. And it's actually a reflection in the lake, or that little pond that's there, both of the plant and the great egret.
August is monarchs and black swallowtail on thistle in the Conference House Park,
which is a beautiful place that everybody should go to. And this photographer is Christine Cosgriff. She probably lives there in order to catch all of this. This is just incredible.
September is an oyster catcher at Wolf's Pond Park.
Again by Ken Filmer. This is his second picture there, but I don't see any oysters on the ground or oysters in the bird's beak. Yeah, I guess he did. He was hungry. He's not sharing.
October is a beautiful photo called Autumn, and that was in Wolf's Pond Park.
And I think this is another picture you're going to have framed. This is by the photographer Natasha Dulub. It is beautiful. I can't believe that. This looks more like the Finger Lakes, upstate,
Yes.
upstate New York. Oh, people, you've really got to get this and have this in your house all the time. But you can always watch our videos.
November is the Salt Marsh in Lemon Creek Park.
By Lance
J.
Reha?
Rhea.
Yes.
Yes.
Rhea, okay. Go ahead.
And then again in December is Turkeys in Clove Lakes Park by Lance J. Rhea.
I'll let you say that name again. And if you notice, when we interviewed Lance, he was telling us a story about the turkeys were making all kinds of noise. And as you can see, if you look closely at it, their mouths are open and they're either telling you, get out of here, photographer, or they're trying to catch snowflakes. That is a beautiful shot. And Lance's shot before that at the Salt Marsh in Lemon Creek is another one of these that you want to frame and have in your house. It's just beautiful art by all of these people.
And each of the months have inspirational quotes by authors, writers, and poets such as Shakespeare, Thoreau, Hans Christian Andersen, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and even Aristotle. And I look forward to this each and every year. I don't write on these. I use them for artwork. They're just so beautiful. We highly recommend it.
And now we'll turn to Kathleen's fun report on a visit to Staten Island's Woodlands and Campgrounds. Kathleen, you're on.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun last week, Charlie and I, exploring another area here on Staten Island. We started out at Todt Woodlands. It's a 56-acre New York State Department of Conservation land that connects up the Staten Island Greenbelt trails along with two campgrounds. It's right in between them. The campgrounds are Henry Kaufmann Campgrounds and the William H. Pouch Scouts Camp. The trail that is, there's no trail marking that New York State DEC puts up, but it is marked by very huge boulders alongside the Manor Road where the cars park. The trail park starts at extremely wide trail, which was beautifully covered with leaves. And as you continue onto the trail gets narrower and narrower. But before that happens, there are two trails to the left and to the right. To the left is the Henry Kaufmann Campgrounds, and to the right is the William H. Pouch Scout Camp. We had planned to continue on through the Todt Hill Woodlands because it connects up with the St. Francis Woodlands, which is another New York State DEC land. But due to so many leaves down this fall and the trail getting narrower and narrower, we thought best to backtrack back to those trails and go to the Pouch Camp. The William H. Pouch Scout Camp is a 143-acre campground that also connects up to the Staten Island Greenbelt. At one time, these 143 acres, or a good portion of it, was going to be developed into housing, but thankfully it didn't happen. The campground you'll see so many different things. 143 acres, you can have so much there. We first ran into an amphitheater with a huge stage. Then we walked over to the Camporee area, which is a huge ball field. This is right behind one of their large parking lots. And there were huge green space that all these scout camps can use. Then we continued on to now a paved area that goes throughout the entire 143 acres. The pathway eventually leads to a most beautiful lake called Lake Orbach. This Lake Orbach is 17 acres, which you don't realize how large it is until you actually navigate all around we kept on walking around and around, and we still didn't see all of the 17 acres. This Lake Orback is predominantly for scout troops, but they do issue about 400 fishing licenses. You do have to have a New York State fishing license, but you do see large signs behind their lodge that says that this is private property, but the hiking is allowed, but what isn't allowed is drugs, alcohol, picnicking, fires, bicycles, and dogs must be leashed. Matter of fact, we actually saw a man walking his dog with a leash. And we saw a number of people enjoying the beautiful autumn outdoors and just enjoying this beautiful campground. The campground was so huge that we kept on getting lost every so often because we kept on finding some more and more beautiful places to look at. There was a beautiful memorial garden with 20 to 30 different statues, memorial. There was a huge climbing wall. I mean, I don't even, 50 feet wide, and right around there was the most beautiful red maple tree. But at least I think it was a red maple tree. It was beautiful red leaves, so I just decided to call it a red maple tree. But the campgrounds was so large, we kept on walking and walking up hills, down hills. When we thought we were done, there was another hill, and then we had to come down that hill. And we continued to walk that we ended up actually walking back through the back end of Todt Hill Woodlands all the way to the Henry Kaufmann campground. So we actually was able to see the rest of the Woodlands. We weren't sure if we were supposed to be in the Henry Kaufmann campground, but a driver drove by in a golf cart and he didn't seem to be too alarmed by our presence. So luckily we were able to finally make our way back to Manor Road, and what was supposed to be a 1-hour Woodlands walk ended up being a 3-hour tour as we kept on getting lost. But it was extremely enjoyable. It was nothing like getting lost in the woods with you, Charlie.
Okay. There are so many environmental happenings that it is our belief that a daily environmental news broadcast might just about cover them all. While we wait for that to actually form in reality, here's what we have for you today. But today's question, this episode today that we're following, is for you, the audience, the viewer, to think about while we're going through this. And that question is, how many tons of greenhouse gases does our civilization emit every single year? We will give you the answer to that as best as we know it at the end of the show here. And that brings us to some facts and science for your thinking pleasure. What is a cloud? Clouds are made, for the most part, on our planet from water vapor, from tiny particles of water that are changing from a floating gas to a floating tiny particle that is changing into a liquid. These tiny water droplets form on the surfaces of tiny particles of solids, some of which are pollutants, but most aren't. There's a lot of tiny things going on here. It's really very small. These platforms of particles are also floating in the atmosphere, and the water droplets gather there. It takes 1 million water droplets to form one raindrop. And while they are accumulating on the particle, it takes the form of what we see as a cloud of various sizes and various shapes, all depending on the winds, air pressures, temperature, the altitude they're at, the amount of sunlight that's coming above the clouds or in the clouds, and the rotation of our planet. If a cloud is close to the ground, we call it fog. If it's filled with pollutants, we call it smog. Under the right circumstances, the cloud can change into rain, snow, sleet, or hail of various sizes. Clouds are quite beautiful. I think we all know that. For more information about clouds, try Googling the information or go to the library. We'll now take a look at some environmental legislation that affects us here on Staten Island. There are 3 pieces of environmental law that we've been following and we will continue to follow over the next few months, if not for years. And they are, as they are brought into reality. One is the proposition that we just had on the recent November elections ballot. It's called Proposition 1, or in the legally named manner, it's called Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act. This bond easily passed by the general voting public. Yay for us environmentalists. That's you, the voter, and will put about $4.2 billion into New York State's environmental actions over the next few years and covers every geographic area of New York State. It is also going to do what has been previously very difficult to achieve. It is going to try and make the actions of the law in an environmentally equitable way. That is, in an environmental justice manner. It will do this by giving a certain percentage of the jobs to the local qualified people and placing the various facilities throughout neighborhoods, not as what has been done previously, which is to place these facilities in only those areas of the poor and the disadvantaged. They are going to be involved specifically in doing land conservation, wetland protection, storm surge mitigation, both along the coastal areas and along river and creek buffer zones as we think beyond New York City and into the vast areas of New York State. And they're going to be involved in planting trees, in reducing stormwater runoff problems, in preventing algae bloom, which is mainly, I guess, up in the Finger Lakes area and the St. Lawrence Riverway up there. Also, they're going to be fighting water pollution and bringing about remediation of that water pollution that does exist. Basically, these monies and planning are in response to the very realistic climate crisis changes that are occurring and affecting all of us, no matter where we live. A second piece of legislation has been in effect for about 3 years, since July 18th, 2019, and can be a roadmap for these newer actions. And that's called the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or CLCPA. It's a law that states that New York State must reduce economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030 and no less than 85% by 2050 from the 1990 levels. The law creates a Climate Action Council, which is charged with developing a scoping plan of recommendations to meet these targets and place New York on a path towards carbon neutrality. At this time, the people charged with carrying this bill out have gathered information from around the state through open public hearings and are preparing a report for actions called a scoping plan based on those hearings, which will be made public this December. Much of this is publicly available at their website, and it's showing the names of the people who are involved in this, the committees, who's on those committees, ways to contact them, and the hearings that they've had over the past year or so, and a timeline, which is very important, of what they have done and where they intend to go and do. One such meeting was held in Brooklyn, and the other was held, and Environment TV actually followed that and attended and did interviews there. And that was held in Peekskill, New York, and is on our website, the Environment TV YouTube. We met with some members of that group, the Climate Action Council, as they are called, and they told us about their scoping plan, as the gathering of statewide information is called. The extent of their investigation covers alternate fuels, gas system transitions, and economy-wide strategies. And they have on their website recordings of their meetings and written materials on those meetings. A third New York State environmental law is called the Green Amendment and was passed in April 2019. This is a constitutional amendment to the New York State Constitution. that would guarantee each person shall have the right to clean air and water and a healthy environment. The legislation would encourage sound green decision-making and help prevent harmful environmental actions. Currently, 43 other states have some form of expression of environmental values in their constitutions, but only Montana and Pennsylvania have recognized protecting environmental rights as an inalienable right, putting environmental rights on par with other political and civil liberties. These three pieces of New York state law are enormous environmental laws that are affecting every one of us in New York State, and will continue to do so for the future, as far as we can see. That's why we should be aware of them and follow them and participate in the enforcement of the actions that these laws apply to. Without our involvement, these kind of laws and constitutional rights and obligations will just sit there gathering dust. It is our intention here in Environment TV to find out more about how these laws are being carried out at the local level on Staten Island over the course of the coming year and report them to you so that we can make sure that the words become effective and meaningful and not just sit there, or worse, become another government corruption arena for business and individuals to take advantage of. We list the links to these laws and other information below and at the ending credits, and hope that you will make real use of these possibilities in this serious time of climate crisis. Okay, now it's time for a quick roundup of Staten Island environmental news. We just don't have time for all of these things, but we may in the future. A $48 million clean renewable energy federal grant is causing businesses on Staten Island to scramble for ideas on how they can be part of the Arthur Kill Terminal, which will be an offshore wind staging and assembly coastal seaport, probably located by the southern area of the Outer Bridge Crossing, so as to avoid bridges and other location problems needed for the assemblage work. Proposition 1, a new environmental New York State law, has been passed by you, the voter. Now, how will it be carried out and who will carry it out? We'll follow up on that. 311 has been getting calls recently about private property owners illegally encroaching on government land and other wild natural areas, even their neighbors. 311 is one of the right choices to fight and alert the community about this selfish and mostly unnoticed behavior. And also, we found out from the federal government that the Environmental Protection Agency of the federal government is seeking public input on the Inflation Reduction Act programs that were passed through President Biden to fight climate change, protect health, and advance environmental justice. These series of stakeholder sessions will include everybody. Every citizen can be part of this. And that includes environmental justice communities, who are usually left out of this, but the government wants our input. It includes the state and local governments, who are always in on this stuff, the clean energy advocates, who rarely get there also, labor advocates, and others to provide directly to the EPA staff. So you Google that and you'll find out more about it. We wish we had more time to cover all of these and more environmental news pieces. If not now, then in the future. Keep your eyes and ears open for these Roundup news items and pass them on to us.
Charlie, if people have questions.
Yes, they do.
Yeah? They should email you, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Charlie@theenvironmenttv.nyc.
Right.
And
The answer to today's question, do you have that, Kathleen? Did you figure it out?
Yes. Okay, people remember what the question was.
Yes, I'll repeat that if you want. How many tons of greenhouse gases does our civilization emit every year?
Yeah, this was a shocker. 51 billion, that's with a B, tons, each and every year. And that is accumulating, not diminishing. So every single year, 51 billion tons of GHG.
is added to the last 51
last
billions.
51.
Very little is knocked out by the sun or sequestering and other methods. It's just not happening. So that's our report, and we hope that you'll join us for the next one. More, we need to hear from you, the viewers. So please send us an email, contact us, and let us know what's on your environmental mind. Until then, enjoy the nature that we live in and are part of. I'm Charlie Olson.
And I'm Kathleen Harris.
For the Environment TV Report. Thank you.
When times grow dark and life grows mean, the hardest times we've ever seen.
When darkness overwhelms the dawn, can we find strength to carry on? When high winds tear down what we've built, do we give in to blame and guilt, or work and fight as we've done before, and rise once more?